Hi, everyone. You're listening to episode 53 of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. Thanks so much for inviting us to your table. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We're a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Daniela, the goofy noob, and I am joined today by the collector.
Hey, this is David.
The intellectual introvert.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris.
And last but not least, the deluxeifier.
Hello, it's Pete.
All right, today we have a very special episode lined up. As we record this, a few of us just got back from the Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio. They had a great time meeting some great people, played a lot of games, and we're going to tell you all about it today. All right, guys, let's get to it. Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio ran from Wednesday through Sunday. David and Chris were there for the first 4 days, getting there when the doors opened and staying way until midnight each day. We heard about some other exciting things as well. A lot of drinking of the pop, Chris. Can't wait for these stories. And they were exhausted and loved every single minute of it. Pete drove down then with our other fifth meeple, Dave, and spent most of Friday at the convention as well. So we're going to hear from all these guys today and just how much this game fair meant to them and what they all took away from it. One of the great things about conventions is that it gives them the opportunity to try some things that they might just not try otherwise. So we're going to start with any new experiences they got from Origins.
Yeah, I'll start with one that both David and I had. We played giant versions of games. We did that twice. We played Giant Power Grid, and then we played Giant Tsuro. And I would say it's two different experiences, two different results of both of those. And interestingly, the one I thought would have more fun with, we had less, I think. And the one we thought would have less fun with, we had more. The first one we played was Power Grid, and I just had this in my mind. It was going to be this big light-up board and pretty awesome. It was in my mind. It was going to be the most awesome experience I ever had. And instead, it was this laminated sheets put together, laying out on a table. We all had different jobs we had to do. The guy running it just kind of sat there and said, okay, that's your job, that's your job. So my job was to take these giant playing cards and keep swapping them out into these holders that just consumed all of my time.
How long?
How long?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Was the game that you played?
It's a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Chris was basically Vanna White for about 2 hours. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then the light up portion was just these little light up ice cubes that had different colored things, and you threw them out there on the table and couldn't reach anything. It was a disappointment for me, I don't know, David.
Yeah, it was a disappointment for me too. I was trying to keep track of player order. I think I had another player trying to do my job the whole time, but I couldn't actually keep track of the colors because on the color cubes, when they lit up, the orange and the yellow and the red were so close together. I couldn't even tell it. I'm not even colorblind, but I felt like I was colorblind and I could not tell the difference. And so I was trying to jump people in line because I thought it was red, but it wasn't red. I think I did that like 3 or 4 times. People were like, what's this guy doing? I'm like, I cannot tell these things, apart. But yeah, Power Grid was a disappointment. I think there could have been so many other things other than, seeing Chris be Vanna White for 2 hours. It would have been a complete disappointment, but it was still fun.
So and I was one of those callers, and I couldn't even tell which ones were mine. So it was hard to keep track of.
So do you think that the execution of it was poor? Like, do you think it could have been like a little jazzed up differently?
Yeah, to be clear, Power Grid as a game is excellent.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to it. It was just the execution was poor. And I'm sure I built it up in my head
You're like,
a little higher.
Awesome.
But at the same time, the execution was subpar regardless of what I had thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
I think me and Chris said afterwards that we'd rather just play regular Power Grid because it would have been faster and easier to see everything. So
Understand.
Definitely.
So how about Tsuro?
Tsuro, on the other hand, I thought was much better. We actually ended up playing it twice. Tsuro's a quick game, right? And it was just, to me, it was just funny, and that was the novel experience I was looking for. Instead of playing on this, 18-inch by 18-inch board, we're playing where our tiles, rather than being 2x2 tiles, are like maybe 18-inch by 18-inch tiles that you might see kids make playrooms out of and those kind of puzzle pieces. Those were our pieces, and so we're walking around carrying 3 of those. We're the boats following the things around. That to me was that was the experience I was looking for.
So you actually were a player piece in this game?
Yes, we were the player piece following the pieces around.
Okay.
Yeah, we were the player piece. I like Tsuro. I was actually not looking forward to that. I was like, Chris, why'd you sign us up for this game? And then when we were playing it, maybe because Chris got out in the very first game and I won the very first game, that I was like, I like this game. This is kind of fun. So then we played it a second time. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I think being the piece is pretty funny because you're seeing people like do circles or spins. and then they're getting themselves out by accident. They're just having to walk off the board. So it was a lot of fun.
And even when you can see exactly where you're going to go, you're still following that path and doing the spins. You're just being silly. So, I mean, it was a good time. I enjoyed that a lot.
Is that a new concept, do you think, this year to have the giant boards, or have they done that before?
They've done them at least a couple years. My guess is they've done them for a long time.
I can tell you that when I went back, it was 25 years ago, there was a game that used Matchbox cars, and that's what you use for the actual game.
Okay.
And they got, I think it's 24 scale or whatever. They were real large cars, the ones that kids run around with their racing on the carpet and all that. So it's not unheard of. This was done back, again, 25 years ago. And it really does bring out the experience because it's so big and so vibrant.
Yeah.
It's really cool when you see something that large, even though it's the same gameplay.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I think they could do like El Dorado, like a big game of that. That would be really cool. And then you're your own player, and you got to get through the forest and the sand and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So that'd be an interesting topic. Send us what you think should be a massive game and what would be fun to play.
Yeah. Also, we got to have necklaces when we played Suro. And then Chris kept his on.
Because I
Almost the
forgot.
whole
And then
convention. It's pretty funny.
at the end of the day, I'm
Well,
walking
where are
around
those
with a
beads from,
beaded
Chris?
necklace. It's like the beads like you would get from down at Mardi Gras. or something like that.
Yeah.
You got, we
Chris
need
is just
pics.
lifting up
I
his
need
shirt all the time
receipts
to
all the
people.
time. I need
Good
receipts.
times.
I need pictures. So that's
times.
great. What are some other new experiences you guys came upon?
I'm going to talk about another one that we did, and this was actually the first time that Origins had done this. So Origins was celebrating their 50th anniversary, but you probably would not have known that unless you read the pamphlet or anything, because they didn't really do a good job, I feel like, of telling people it was their 50th anniversary, unfortunately. But I think that's a huge milestone. But they had a consignment shop that they've done for the first time ever that I was told about. So normally there's trades and math trades and other stuff, but they actually had a consignment shop where you could actually give your games, you could list out what prices and stuff you wanted to charge, and then they ran it. I think it was at the Hyatt down in the basement somewhere, and that was kind of fun. I actually went with Pete and Dave to that. We had to stand in line for about 20 minutes, and we came like 2.5 hours after it had opened, and we still had to stand in line. But we did find some pretty good stuff. I was actually, when we walked in there, I was pretty amazed at how many games were left in the selection of games. I don't know about you, Pete.
Yeah, that was actually my highlight of the whole day was going to the consignment, because I really didn't expect to go, but it was fantastic. We went in there. I did not plan on buying games, and I walked away with more than I expected. The one smart thing I did was, maybe in the back of my mind I was thinking about this, but I did pack an extra one of those grocery type bags. And I was so glad that I did, because I went and dug out my backpack and I'm like, hey, I got a bag. And it was a lot easier to carry back
room
to the
for
car.
more games.
Fortunately, Dave, he was able to mule the rest of David's games, and I drove them back in my car because we were closer to where I had parked. So rather than taking them back to the hotel, we just took them straight to the car. But that was actually probably the highlight of the day for me, going there.
So did you bring any games? Anybody bring games?
To sell?
Yeah.
No,
No?
of course
Okay.
not. I'm called the collector. I don't sell games.
Well, hey, there's some down on the bottom shelf that you might want to dust off. But that's actually a really cool idea. How about pricing for those?
They were good.
They were good.
I thought they were really good.
There were some that were high, but if you knew what you were looking for, like kind of like me and Pete do, it was really good pricing on some of those games. And then, my highlight was, Dave wasn't buying games. He was having fun looking with us, but he was like, hey, I'll stand over here and just hold all your games. I was like, oh, yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's why I bring them. That's why I bring them
I know.
along.
I was like, Dave, you can come anytime. Perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I picked up a nice a couple games as well. One of the games I thought was fairly priced, but when I actually looked at it, there was actually good expansion in it as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
it really paid off.
Surprise.
And these other games I picked up, I thought were real reasonable. They sounded good to me, but there were a lot of great games there. I could have spent probably 3 or 4 hours in there easily, but
That's
I
amazing.
also wanted to get out so other people can get in, because they could only let so many people in that room at one time.
Gotcha. All right, Chris, what else you got for new experiences?
For me, it was just a lot of other games that I had not played before. So I think for the most part, we played games or we walked around the exhibition hall.
Great.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'll probably bring it up later, but me and Chris actually we played a lot of co-op games this year, which is new to us. I mean, normally we're playing individual competitive games, and this year I was looking at our list, and that was one of the changes that I think that we had done is we actually played a lot of co-op based kind of games. Sometimes they had a trader element to them, but sometimes they're just straight co-op, and so we'll kind of talk about that later.
Okay. All right. Well, I think those are some honestly great new experiences. And as we go into some of the best takeaways and highlights, I know, Pete, you kind of just talked about how that space down in the basement, selling and buying games, was a really great highlight for you. So talking about high points, were there any others, Pete, that you think were just a real high point, or is that just the main one that you're holding on to?
Well, that was probably the main one. But one of the other things that Dave and I did when we went down there, we were talking about what we wanted to get out of the experience. Mm-hmm. And as I said before on the other podcast, I'm really not too big into crowds and all that. But what the one thing we wanted to do was take advantage of things that we may not be able to do all the time. Mm-hmm. So we actually went to the library and I checked out 2 games that I'm sure David has, but we haven't had a chance to play. But something that Dave and I didn't have, something similar, kind of light that we could play and not get too heavy in. So we played Can't Stop. I'm not sure if you guys ever played it. Mm-hmm. It was really fun. This was one that was on my list to play for a long time, and the opportunity was there. And the other one was actually the classic Stone Age that I thought about getting it one time or another because everybody knows I like my worker placement. And we played that, and it was interesting because I think going back in time and those older games, which I really enjoy, it's interesting to see how a lot of those mechanics are so boiled down that it's something very simple, but it's so great because you're just really getting the best juice of the game.
Okay. So the library concept here at Origins is where they have a stack of games and you can go and check them out. And then you can essentially sit just at an empty open table, right?
Correct.
So do they have a lot of games in the library that you guys saw?
It's like 1,000 games.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's not a stack. It's several cupboards or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So that's a lot of games.
So that's a really nice concept that they had there. So
yeah,
good.
The one thing that they do have is they have a QR code that you can scan and get the library. So you can actually take it back and look to see what's there. But then you go and you give them your driver's license and you sign it out. And it's just kind of like a library book. And you check it out and bring it back and they check you back in.
Awesome. Chris, take us to some of your best takeaways and your highlights.
Yeah, probably my biggest highlight, we got to meet up with a couple of listeners. So we met up with Seth and Chris, got to spend some time with him. Didn't quite get to spend as much time with him just because I think we put too many things on our schedule this time, maybe one or two too many. So we didn't have as much free time, but I had a really good time. They were, I don't know, 2 great guys. Both of them, I enjoyed every minute we spent with them. Got to play a couple games with them as well. Chris happened to be someone that I saw online was selling some games, so I bought a few games from him as well. For me, that was a highlight. I have others, but that was number 1 highlight.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, there's a lot of different highlights. I guess one of my highlights was Chris actually didn't snore the whole time, so that was a great highlight from last year, Chris. Chris always warns me as we get, because we share a hotel room when we go to this to save some money, and Chris always warns me that he snores a lot. And this time, Chris, it was perfect, man. You didn't snore a single time, so that was nice. I appreciate that. But yeah, I would say, man, I thought we had some really good teachers this year. They really stood out to me. I'll kind of mention them when we talk about more of our games, but I thought they were really good teachers. I'm not sure last year I would have said the same thing, but there's some teachers that I felt like taught games well, and actually, I feel like we developed some relationships there. So that was really fun. So yeah, but a lot of good stuff.
Another one of my highlights, and this just kind of happened. We didn't realize this was going to happen, at least I didn't, but we were actually late to get somewhere. We were trying to just get a last little time through the exhibit hall, working our way out to the front, and I noticed there was a guy standing in front of a table of books, and it was Keith R.A. DiCandido, who was one of my favorite authors. He's a Star Trek author, one of my top 3.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't spend much time there, but like, holy cow, I got to take a few minutes and talk to this guy. Shook his hand afterwards, took a picture of his book. I didn't buy anything from him. But,
he had a table there?
He had a table there. I don't know if he was selling.
I was like, how did you recognize the author?
There was a sign there.
Oh,
I think that's what he was there for, was sort of a meet and greet. But it wasn't the ones where you got to pay $50 to talk to someone. It was just he was there at his table, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I wasn't expecting that. And again, great author, so I probably will eventually pick up one of his books once I get through my current stack.
That's the plague of book readers.
Yeah.
Got a stack of 20 at home.
Do you have other highlights, David? Because I got plenty.
I'll just talk about stories. I know last year, if you follow our podcast, you might have gotten Chris in his soda saga last year, and so I'll just bring it up as a highlight of the thing for me is that Chris actually kept his mug, so he still has it. Maybe we'll take a picture of it later just to prove that he still has this mug after 4 days being there. But the funniest part to me was, so Chris had it on day 1. I think you drank like 10 sodas or 10 refills.
Yeah.
I think on day 2 it was another 10. And then somewhere in day 2.5, like in that morning, Chris is like, I am so done drinking soda. I think you said at one point your whole mouth you felt like was coated in sugar, even though you had brushed your teeth multiple times. And so, to me that was just hilarious. I was dying laughing. I was like, oh my goodness, day 2.
20 pops.
20 pops in 2 days.
Well, then it came back out on day 4. I was like, okay, I can probably hit a few more.
Rebounded.
But, yeah.
You didn't go to a diabetic coma.
Get the
Jeez.
last of your fill.
But they didn't have a diet option. That kind of irritated me a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Everything they had was non-diet, and so I can only do so much of that as well. If they had a Diet Cola there, I would have just kept on going.
Were you like mixing them like Dew and Pepsi, like all this?
For the most part, no, because they're all it's craft beverages, and,
Gotcha.
and you're not going to mix watermelon blow pop or whatever it is with root
might.
beer, but you might. Yeah. For the most part, I just went with the straight, but it's tough because I bought the big mug, and so it's heavy, and so it's literally I am shackled
You're
to
like
this
doing a
thing.
workout.
Yeah. And the other thing I noticed, David, after I got home, I was online and Origins things pop up, and they were talking about
I
the
saw
Wild
these.
Bills. And there was ones like, yeah, I bought it last year, and on the first day, I left it on top of the pay machine.
I
and
saw
I'm like,
that.
That's the exact same thing I did. So all you got to do is sit outside the pay machines, and you're probably going to make a killing on those things.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so speaking of food, we mentioned this last year. I'll mention it again. The food at North Market is crazy. If you're at the convention center, walk a block up to the North Market. We went to Hubert's Polish Kitchen, and then once I got a burger from Colo Butcher and Deli, it was over. That's where I was going every single time. That burger was ridiculous. I took a picture of it just so I could remember it in the future. But there's so many great options. You're not going to go up there and find a Burger King and a McDonald's. It's just all of these excellent choices.
Nice.
And for what you get, you're not going to get dinner for $3, but you're also not going to spend $40, and you're going to get fantastic food up there.
Well, you guys are going to have to download all your photos so I can post all of these and we can tag those people in them. They'll probably appreciate that.
No, that sounds great. I have to upload the picture of my burger, although I think
Yes.
it might be there.
Okay, I'll take a peek.
Chris was eating pretty much anything he wanted. I was on a diet, the other hand. So I think
What do
next
you mean
year,
you're on a diet?
I think next year we should have something where we have to weigh in before we go, and then weigh out as
Okay.
we go, and just see how much we're gaining at this convention. Just because I think it'd be funny.
I know David says he was on a diet, and he was shaming
tell us
me
the
with
truth,
he was shaming with
I was
all
eating
the
green things. Chris never had a green
You
thing on
had
his
a
plate.
bag of M&Ms that every once in a while you'd whip out.
Green M&Ms.
They were peanut M&Ms, and that was for the protein.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Okay. And other than that, the last highlights for me were that we played, I think, 29 different games. I logged in, 40 total plays. But the high points for me, maybe we'll talk about them. Nemesis was number 1. It's obviously not a new game. I had never played it before, and I was actually trying to talk David out of doing it. It was one of the ones we signed. I was like, I don't know, man. 4 hours is scheduled for this game. It ended up taking 4 hours plus a 40-minute teach, but I had a blast. We played it co-op. David died about 2.5 hours in.
Yeah.
We just ignored his corpse the rest of the time and just kept on going. That's when he went to the
Yeah,
concession.
gonna
that's
say,
when I
where'd
went
you
to
go?
consignment. I was like, I'm out of here. I got to shop.
That's when I grabbed him. Yeah, I said, "Come on, David, let's go."
Did you end up going to the consignment shop, Chris?
I went like the day later, and it was just slim pickings. And it
Oof.
was anything that was left was okay. These are the ones that were not priced appropriately.
And that wasn't something you had to sign up for. You could just go.
Just show up.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
And I won't go into detail, but we played Hot Streak. It was the last game that we played. So this is the mascot race. Had an absolute blast. If you haven't played Hot Streak, you should. If you haven't bought Hot Streak, you probably should. Absolute great time. We played Endeavor Deep Sea. That was a really good game. And then at Bezier, they had you could demo the game makers, and that was one I wanted to get my eyes on. We were able to sit down. Jay helped us learn it, and that to me, I think I posted it online the next day. That is a must back for me on Kickstarter. Couldn't find out what the price was going to be, so I'm a little worried about that because there's a lot
We
in
can all
it.
chip in, maybe.
But that game just looked excellent. It was everything I thought it would be. One of the neat features, I won't go into everything, but it was you're making games, and the games you were making are games that you would go in and find BGG. I had a card for Terraforming Mars. I had a card for Brass Birmingham. And as you make those games and put them in your tableau, the way they score bonus points is associated with the type of game that is. And so if it's a co-op game, you're going to score based on other people at the table. So it's that co-op theme. If it's an engine builder, it's how many other ones do you have that meet a certain requirement. And just everything about that game, I thought, yeah, this is up my alley and is going to be a good one.
Interesting. If you'd like to support Chris buying the game, please send him A Venmo.
Yeah, Jay's out there being like, I'm going to charge $250 because Chris is buying this game.
For everything that's in it, it might be.
Pete, I think you have a note from Dave.
Yeah, one of the things that when we were driving back, we talked quite a bit because coming from Columbus to Cleveland, it's a good 2-hour ride. And one of his highlights that I know he talked to me about was actually some of the artwork that was there. I know, Daniela, you talked about, the adjacent kind of things for gaming, and there was some really fabulous artwork and talented people doing that. And that was one of the things that I think we walked by twice when we were going through the big area, and we actually talked to one of the artists there, and we were asking him how he did some of the stuff. So it was really interesting, and it was some of that artwork that these people do are amazing.
So was it actual people who do the design of the games, or was it fans of
Well,
games?
this was actually just, there were some artwork. It wasn't necessarily for a game, but they were out there. He was telling me how when COVID hit, they changed things around and he became an artist.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It was really interesting. He says, yeah, he's making a living off of it now. And I mean, of course, it looked beautiful.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, really, that was one of Dave's highlights of the night, too.
All right. All right. Well, speaking of just the exhibits and stuff, why don't you guys take us through the actual exhibit hall? I know you guys typically have a good time walking through all of them and checking it out. What did you like this year? Maybe what didn't you like this year? What would you want to see in the future?
So I thought this was really funny. I've actually been watching other people, they're speaking about their experiences, and Dice Tower actually went on there and put how many dice vendors were in the hall. And I thought it was a really funny video. So does anybody want to take a guess about how many dice vendors were actually there? Because there's a lot of dice vendors, but they were actually selling dice.
I'm going to say 51.
Oh, that's really high.
That's a high number.
The place is huge.
Yeah, that place is huge.
I was going to guess about 35 if I had to guess.
So we're selling actual dice sets or any form of dice?
Any form of dice. I think they were doing their...
Okay, because you had like cat toy dice and things like that.
Necklaces and...
Yeah, what a 20.
Yeah, I think they counted over 30. It was like 31, 32 on their video. But he just kept going and going, and it was crazy. But, that just kind of tells you that this exhibit hall, it has a lot of games in there, but there's also a lot of stuff, like kind of Pete was saying, that are adjacent to the game industry. But, yeah, I mean, I always have a fun time going. I always look for kind of those hidden gems that, are there, smaller guys, smaller publishers. I'll talk about one later. But I thought anytime you actually wanted to get in a demo game at this convention this year, I felt like you could get into almost any game that you wanted to. I don't know if you guys had that same experience, but I thought the wait times to actually demo stuff was a lot better than even last year.
Yeah, I thought it was a little less crowded in there, at least the times that I was in there. Maybe I was in at non-peak times, but there were times last year was like, I just don't want to be here. You can't get where you want to go. And other than being in miniature markets area where it was by design crowded, I agree. You could get to the tables, play what you want.
Yeah, there's a lot to play.
Anything that you guys would want to see in the future, maybe? Like, were you like hoping for something though that was there? Or maybe some type of vendor or T-shirt? I don't know. Like, what?
Well, there were plenty of T-shirts there. There were a couple different places that sold them. I don't know, David. Did you buy the T-shirt we were looking at?
We did not yet.
Okay, so a little warning: if you got a little kid listening, might want to cover his or her ears. But they got some Dungeons and Dragons things there, and there was a shirt that said "Boobies of Persuasion +5." And I just thought that was the funniest thing there is, because they're right. You can get me to do anything you want to. It's not even a +5; it's a +20 roll. And I thought you were going to get that. And then there was a pair.
I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons person.
And then there was a pair of underwear on it with a 20-sided die with a 1 on it, so it's a critical miss. And all it was it was a picture of that die, and it said nope. And I was like, yep. That's,
Did you buy him?
no, but I almost did. I was like, okay, I can relate to that.
Chris.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We could actually never talk to the lady that was running that stand, because every time we went there to try to ask for pricing, because not everything was priced, that she was never available. She was always with the customer. And so
But it was
she's
like
always
with one customer and didn't even acknowledge that we're kind
know.
of staring at her.
Oof,
So
tough.
What are you doing?
That's not
What are you
good.
doing?
Always
I might have
acknowledge the people who
Amazoned it,
walk
yeah.
up.
Yeah, but I always enjoy. In general, I enjoy the exhibit hall a lot. So I go there to play, and I'm not a big people person, but there's just so much to see.
Yeah.
And I sometimes work, and sometimes it's tough because I'm an engineer. I like straight lines, and that they'll stop you from going down the aisle. You got some tables here, and then you don't know if you got. How many times do we like? Have we even been here before? Yeah. Right. It's our third time through the hall, and we get somewhere. It's like I didn't see this.
Yeah.
Yeah, wayfinding is
And then
important.
trying to find something, that's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Even if
so
you look at
better
the number,
signage,
like where the heck was
better
that?
mapping, do those things. Those are
Yeah.
very important too.
And speaking of signage, you had a conversation with one of the vendors as well.
Yeah, I had a conversation. I feel like with a couple of the vendors, and they were telling me, just kind of throwing this out there, but they said, "Hey, if you mention your podcast, but the signage that normally is above a lot of the booths that we had seen every year and kind of helps identify where different stands are, there wasn't as much of it this year." And I kind of noticed that, and they had told us that they had upped the pricing quite a bit to actually put signage up.
Oh, come on.
Not only overhead, but also just like in the hallways, like on the ground. They have like different stickers that you can place and stuff. And so a lot of the publishers, just because they've been hit with tariffs and everything else, they weren't paying that extra money because things are a lot tighter. And so they were kind of expressing some anger a little bit, I think.
That's frustrating because you want to come into a place and you want people to go all out decorating. You shouldn't have to pay. If you pay for a space 10 by 10, it should include the airway as well.
There was practically nothing hanging. I remember one thing, maybe there was more, but I can remember one.
Yeah.
Hanging from
that was
the
all
ceiling.
play because they sponsor basically the whole event. And then, the other booths, I mean, if you want a booth that's, normally towards the front, you're going to be paying $10K or more. So, and not to get signage because they want you to pay more. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little wild. All right, hopefully hear some feedback and they'll do better next year at that. Meanwhile, Chris is at home making puffy painted underwear. So
Exactly.
If you want a pair,
Make
hit
my
him
own.
up.
Make my own.
Critical miss. That was funny. Okay, I'm not over that. So, all right, let's talk about the people at the convention. You guys have just told me a little bit of some of the people you met. Chris, you want to call them fans? Yeah. Chris was so hoping to meet a bunch of fans.
Well, I mentioned Seth and Chris earlier, and again, I said that was a highlight. So I'll call them listeners.
Yeah,
I'll call them
fine.
listeners.
Fair enough.
But again, that was a true highlight. And I will say, Chris has the voice for radio. I don't know. I don't know what he does, and I know you pointed that out, David. But that his voice was like, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you could be doing voiceovers on TV and all of that. And so that to me was okay. What is my memory of Chris other than the times we had? It was that voice. Mm-hmm. And for Seth, it was just. I mean, that's just one happy, fun-loving dude.
Oh yeah.
That I think it doesn't matter who you are. If you're hanging out with Seth, you're having a good time.
Great.
Yeah, I was hoping to meet up with Seth. I know I had messaged him before we went down, and I was kind of talking about I might go down there because it was kind of a last-minute thing. We kind of planned it. And anyways, we did end up going, but I didn't get an opportunity to miss him, and I was a little sad about that.
Well, he did say he wished he got to meet you,
Yeah.
and he brought you up a couple times, Danielle, as far as said, we got to call Danielle and get her down here.
I know.
So.
I had just come back from vacation, full disclosure, so it was hard for me to take off work. And it seems like a convention falls around my vacations every single year. So hopefully they can come out to our place sometime, though. That'd be great. Have you guys out for a weekend or something. But where are Chris and Seth from?
They are from Illinois,
Illinois.
so like southwest of Chicago, so up in the northeastern tip, but southwest of Chicago. Yeah, actually pretty close to where
Both
my
of
son
them?
is. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Not from the exact same spot, obviously, but I think one of them was like 45 minutes from my son, and another one's closer. So
perfect.
they're roughly in that same area.
Excellent.
So I think, and if I ever visit my son again, I might send a note to Chris and Seth and say, hey, let's get together.
Do
and play
they know
something.
each other?
Oh yeah.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. All right.
I was thinking about making a Gen Con run, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Oh.
That's a possibility. Other people, as far as highlights for me, I mentioned Nemesis earlier. Heather taught us the game. She was fantastic. Now, it was a 40-minute teach, but there's a lot to learn there. But she kept it interesting the whole time. Because one of our players didn't show up, she filled in the fifth spot as well. But it was like every time something happened, the alien didn't just come out. It was, the alien's out or something scratches. He's making a scratching sound, but not in a goofy way. It was just, she loved this game. She enjoyed teaching it. She enjoyed playing it. And that made the experience all the much better for me.
Oh, I agree. I think Heather is awesome. I mean, we actually ran into her multiple times. At least I did, outside of just playing that Nemesis game. And every time, my conversation with her was just always great. I know she's going to be at Gen Con teaching Nemesis. So if you're lucky enough to get her, sign up for that because she is a treat as far as teaching it. And just the passion she has for that game was awesome. And, I'm glad we actually got to play with one of the people who taught because that's a very rare thing. Normally they're just teaching.
So is she a promoter for the game or is she just there teaching that game?
She's just there
she
teaching that
loves
game
it?
because she
Perfect.
loves it, yeah.
We played a lot of games in the Rogue Judges area. And I think, David, you were
Yep.
asking them, and it's just people that love these games and want to teach people to
Gotcha.
play the games that they love.
Yeah.
So,
It was cool.
And then we played Terraforming Mars with Miranda and Randy from Legends of Nirvana. They knew how to play that game. Okay. And it had been a while since we had it to the table. And so David and I are scrambling like, oh my goodness, what's the rules? Because, I mean, we did a draft at the beginning of every round, and they'd have cards stacking up for us before I even looked through my first five. It was like they knew what card they won. They knew what went with what. And Miranda just ran away with it. The rest of us were bottled up in second, third, and fourth place, but Miranda ran away with it. But they definitely knew their games.
Yeah, that's a game that I got us in trouble in because we were looking for a game. We had about a 2-hour window. We saw there somebody had Terraforming Mars and a player signed up, and so I just went over there. I didn't really, recognize who they were yet, and so I said, "Hey, do you guys actually know how to play this? Because if you do, we'll sit with you. But if you don't know how to play it, like we're not in because some people are learning the rules as they go. We didn't want to be there for 3 or 4 hours, and they were like, "Yeah, we know how to play." And so when we got there, they knew how to play, and I was like, "Oh crap, I don't actually know how to play as well as I was hoping that I did." So it was trial by fire in that game. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I do think we played a little faster, and by faster I mean we were pushing end game a little more than they would typically drag it out. But we also had somewhere to be.
You pulled a Pete on them.
And we had another. We did. We pulled a little bit of Pete on. We also, when the game was over, we're like, well, shoot, we got a game starting in 2 minutes. So we played the game and then just left.
Yeah.
And let them clean up without us. So that was kind of rude, but they did give us the okay to do it.
Not proper board game etiquette, but
that's funny. All right. Well, we have 2 publisher spotlights. We're going to go to Restoration Games first. Tell us about that.
So with Restoration Games, we met Beth there. And she's their new head of, I think it's like marketing or something. I don't have my notes in front of me for that one, but she was awesome. We actually had signed up to meet her, and when we had got there, we didn't know if it was going to be a 10 and 15 minute meeting. And Beth actually spent about a half hour with us to the point where I felt like we should just leave because we were hungry. But we could probably talk to Beth all day. I mean, not just about the games that Restoration had, which they had a lot of good ones that I didn't even know about necessarily going into it. But just Beth as a person was really cool, just getting to know her. She had an Etsy shop. Just her way that she got into that position at Restoration Games, it was really cool to find the backstory that she had coming there. But I think they have a real winner in her. I think she's going to be awesome in that position. She's very people-focused, and you can just tell that not everybody there always is. And so when you find somebody that's not only passionate about games, but passionate about people and telling them about that too, just really shown through. So props to Beth. We're hoping to potentially battle some of Restoration Games here in the future. So might look forward to some of those battles as we plan our fall schedule.
Yeah, so some of the games that she was talking to us about, obviously Thunder Road Vendetta, they were selling that. They had plenty of that. Unmatched is I think one of their main lines. They have, 150 different versions of that. It seemed like a pretty cool game, and they've just recently come out with a co-op version. They were coming out with some other versions of that too. Crossbows and Catapult she was talking about. Return to Dark Tower, David, you were mentioning, and want to be able to get that to the table. And then they had demos out of Battle Monsters, which I think is a recent Kickstarter. It's a remake of a game, as all of them are, from decades ago. But this is like, imagine a giant table that you have. It's taken up the entire table. It's probably a 4 foot by 4 foot board or something, where you've got King Kong battling Godzilla, and they're firing at each other, and then there's planes coming around, and you're controlling either one monster and its army or another monster and its army. If you're into that, it was like, okay, that's the ultimate version. And that's one thing I will say, that of the games I've played in the games she was showing us, they're not just remaking games, they're remaking games and doing them right.
Awesome. That sounds great. All right, the other publisher spotlight we have is Gamehead.
Yeah, so we met with Paul. I think it was Thursday night we met with Paul. And Paul showed us a lot of games, and I feel like a short amount of time. I don't even know how long we spent with Paul, but it was just like one game after another. But Gamehead is basically a newer publisher that's coming out, and they asked Paul, I can't think of his last name. Solomon, to lead it. And Paul Solomon's known for games like Honey Buzz. He was the designer on that, and some other big name games. So he took this position, and so basically he is making their game lineup for Gamehead. And I think beforehand they did like accessories, game adjacent stuff, like potentially like tables and other stuff. But now they want to get into actually producing games, and really a small box line of games. Think of, like, if you think of All Plays, there's smaller box games like Lure and stuff like that. They're kind of coming up with a similar box size. It's like maybe an inch bigger on each size, but a good travel size box. And so we saw, I guess, 3 other different lines that they're trying to do games in. One is for, I think it was a party line. Chris could probably tell you more about those games. Then one, I think was it like beginners? I can't
It was
remember.
casual, party, and thinky. Those are the three lines.
Thinky was the last one, yeah. So, but I'll let Chris kind of take it away and tell you about the games that we played with Paul.
Yeah, so the casual line, they had two of them. One was called Corgi Pile Up, and it was dog themed. He called it a trick taker, but it was a trick taker where you had to play a certain card, right? Someone leads in, you have to either play your highest or your lowest, and maybe you got a little bit of choice, and then you're moving up a track based on the last card that you have in your hand. Definitely casual. It's not something you're going to strategize your way to a win. I think there's a little bit of strategy, it seemed like, but casual for sure.
Yeah.
And then Venture Angels was the other one in that lineup. It was basically Shark Tank themed, where you've got 4 or 5 companies that fall into certain categories, and you're deciding you've got, I think, 4 or 5 chips. One of them is a 0, and the other ones have numbers on there. And you're just putting out blind bids. People can't see what numbers you're putting there. Whoever has the highest bid on a certain company ultimately takes that company into their repertoire, except I think there was one, whichever one gets the most, that's overhyped. Nobody gets it. Yeah. And then for all the ones that are remaining, you get that in. And I believe there was an escalation where once you get a certain number, then your bids start to be obvious to people. And so there's a little bit of that hidden bid that becomes less and less as you get ahead. Again, casual line, probably not going to be my favorite games there, but very accessible. I think the rules, he did an amazing job pitching. He had his pitches down. It was obvious. He used to be a designer. He used to pitch. He could give you the feel for a game in no time. And those were games that you could easily get into. In the party line, there was a word game, which David was not a fan of word games. I enjoyed it a lot. It was called First Class Letters. It was basically you're rolling dice. You have to make words with those letters in them as much as possible, but then you're doing it where you can only make a certain number of words, and they've all got to be alphabetical when you're done. And once you slot them in, you slot them in. And then Foolish Fool is actually, he gave me a copy of that to take home, play with my family, maybe play with this group. This is a game I'm not usually a fan of. Basically, you draw a card, you put it on the table, and that's the rule for the rest of that game. Every time you pick up a card, now you have to say, time's up or something. It's silly rules like that, but then as the game goes on, you still have to do those rules. I actually had a good time with it, which is not normal for me in that kind of game. I actually played it with my daughter Julie, I think 4 times the night I got home. So we just got it out and had a good time with that. And then in the thinky ones, I'll leave those to you, David, because I think a couple of those were right up your alley.
Yeah, so they had 2 thinking games, or thinkier games, kind of like gamers games. One of them was called Trinket Trove, and in Trinket Trove, it's like an auction set collection game where, your cards that you are auctioning to win a bid, you're playing down cards from your hand to win that bid. And then if you win the bid or whatever order we establish through the auction, then you're getting to choose different cards that come out in your set collecting. So they're worth different amount of points. Depending on how many of the same cards you get. That game was I think it could be a lot of fun. I'm going to be teaching it here at our church game group, that game night that meets there. But it's a casual, I would say it's like a casual game that you can play, a little bit of meat in there, but you could probably play that game in about 15-20 minutes. It's not very hard. It's not very much thought, but yet there is some strategic things in there. And the artwork's really good. You're kind of like little woodland mice, and you're trying to collect trinkets, to put into your little home. And so that's kind of fun. And then the other one, the meatier of the two, I would say, was No Loose Ends.
Meteor by far. I played a version of that game, and it is a brain buster.
Yeah, it's a remake of a Japanese game that Chris has played.
Shut the Books.
And it is definitely going to mess with your brain a little bit. So in this game, you are trying to take different tricks. You're trying to steal stuff. I think you're bank robbers or something. And you're trying to go in and you're trying to take like diamonds or other kind of goods. But every time you take something, you're leaving evidence behind. And so you're trying to cover up that evidence by trick-taking mechanics so that, they can't find you and they can find other people. And that's kind of how you score it in an oversense. I haven't played the game that much before. It was a really quick overview. Chris has played the original before, and I just know that it's really thinky to the point where I was getting a little bit of a headache trying to learn it. But I want to learn it, and so I did pick up a copy of this one.
Yeah, you're dealt a certain number of cards just like everybody is, and you're choosing however many cards you want to out of your hand to put down face up in front of you. And let's say you put a blue 9 in front of you as one of those. You have to win a trick where you played, or either you played or the trick that won it, I think is the way it goes, was either blue or a 9. Yeah, or maybe it's the trick that the card that was led. And if you do that, you cover it up, and you're going to get points for that. If you win a trick that doesn't match one of your cards, then you have to set it separately. And if there are any things that you predicted at the beginning that you don't cover up, you're losing points for that as well. And I know when I played it last year at Origins, the Shut the Books version, it was mostly minusing because it was just you got to get that right. But when it works, it's great. And I think the more you play it, you start to figure that out. But the first time you play it, like I have no idea, and it's just a brain buster trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And the cool part is about this game is that not only are the new rule set in here kind of the version that they're doing, but you could also play this game with the old rule set as well. So you can play the game either version, it looks like, in the rule book. So which is great for people that want to play that original one from Japan that's really hard to get their hands on.
Yeah, and that's two powerhouses getting together to finish that game off, Taiki Shinzawa and then Sao Beppu. So people who have put a lot of games together, working together to make this one a game. Honestly, if you get a chance to get it and you like Trick Takers, you should get that one.
So you guys had to sign up to meet some of these people. Is there anyone that you guys didn't get to sign up for meet, or anyone that was fully booked, or are you guys satisfied with the ones you met?
I think so. I mean, the other one that I would just say is that, we went to Bezier's booth. We saw Jay from last year. He's always good to talk with Jay. We didn't get as much time this year to talk to Jay, I think, as in previous years. We just had a lot fuller schedule with just some of the stuff we were doing. But, he did take, time out of his day to, walk us through Game Makers, which I think is going to be awesome as well. If you like anything like Planet Unknown or simultaneous games like that are a little bit meatier, I don't think it has anything to do with the mechanics of necessarily Planet Unknown, but as far as simultaneous play, I'm always intrigued with those games. I think this game is gonna hit it. So, yeah, good times.
And he also did say that, hey, it's going to be kickstarted. That's going to be a 6-player game. And then when it ultimately goes to retail, it'll be a 4-player game. And so when you do see that Kickstarter out, if you're like us and you play with a bigger player count, then you may want to jump on that Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Once again, if you'd like to fund Chris's game for a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
He was asking us for pricing, and then, Chris is like 150. I'm like, 120, 80. So hopefully they listen to me and not Chris.
All right. Well, we talked about some of the things that maybe didn't go quite as planned. Let's call these original sins. Anything that you guys want to talk about that a little disappointed in?
The bathrooms this year. Oh, my. I mean, I don't know. Our bathroom experience this year compared to last year, I just felt that they either weren't cleaning them very often, or unfortunately, we saw people that work in there. They're just standing around listening to, like, on their phones, watching soccer games, stuff like that. And the bathrooms are just nasty, and they're just in there just...
And then the next day you go to a different restroom, and he's in that restroom standing there watching stuff. So you start to understand why the restrooms are not in that great condition. And as bad as they were worse last year. So they did make a little bit of improvement this year. I think they were.
I have a secret bathroom I go to. I'm not telling anybody where that is because I feel like it's the cleanest one. And I will walk out of my way
back alleys don't count.
To go to that bathroom that I know is relatively well kept versus all the masses because... just some of them are just not great this year.
And then sometimes even the restrooms close by, the doors were locked. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
There's a convention going on here, and the restrooms are locked. Come on.
I will say, though, the trash pickup was a lot better this year because I did not see trash cans overflowing, which I saw them last year, so that was really good.
I was going to say that restrooms didn't seem too bad to me. I thought they were pretty decent. But I will admit, now that you just mentioned the trash thing, that was one of those things that, because I didn't notice it, I think that's a good thing.
Last year, things were overflowing everywhere.
Right.
And you didn't see that this time. So they at least got that right this time.
Yeah. There was a lot less, just like one of those guys that want your money on the side of the street.
Panhandlers, yeah. We only got hit once.
We only got hit.
Want your money on the street.
We only got hit once.
Well, last year that was a problem.
Did you get your window cleaned at least?
They were aggressive last year.
Yeah, last year was a big problem. This year we got hit one time when we were out walking places. So that was good. And we just ignored them and just kept walking. It worked. Yeah.
Gotta take the steering wheel and flex it a little.
Well, this was just walking.
We talked about some of the pricing for the exhibitors. Do you guys have any more information? I know that kind of seemed kind of a
well. I just had that on my list because I didn't see all that many great deals. Mm-hmm. And now I will say that All Play actually seemed to have their pricing down compared to what I could get online, and that's what I would hope to see. I recognize that, hey, they're paying for that booth, but I don't want to have to pay a booth.
You're coming to the convention,
right.
and you've spent money to go to the convention.
Exactly. So I was happy with the All Play pricing to say, hey, that's actually cheaper than I can get it online. And I bought a couple things there because of that. For the most part, though, I mean, you're paying what you could pay somewhere else. And that's always disappointing to me.
Yeah, because you don't want people standing there looking at Amazon going, I'm just going to order this on Amazon when I get home, right? You want to get the deals there. You want to have those interactions. You want to make the deal and talk to the people and the publishers and all that other kind of stuff. So yeah, that's interesting. What else?
I mean, I'll talk about some games. I mean, that I just did not hit for me. We played a game called Ruins, which is new. It's from All Play. It's like they have these clear cards. Me and Chris tried to teach it to ourselves because every time we went to the All Play booth, nobody was there to teach us. And I think this game does not play well at 2 at all. I don't know if it plays better at higher player counts. I hope so. I hope it's like 3 or 4 players is kind of where it shines. But when you played it with 2 players, I remember walking away being like, wow, that was bad. Like, so, I mean...
and if we were playing it wrong, then it goes back to All Play's rule books of it being so difficult to tell how you play a game in the rule books. But we were sitting next to someone else when we were doing it.
Yeah.
And they were like, how you like it? And we gave them our opinion. They're like, yeah, that's what we like to do. So it wasn't just us. It wasn't just us.
It was, not great. There's another game I'll mention since I don't know when Chris wants to go, but I'll mention this game. We played this game called Salem 1692, but it was actually Affliction Salem 1692 that Chris signed us up for. This is the game we were rushing to get to after playing Terraforming Mars and not helping clean up. And when we got there, I will say all the people there were lovely, but this game is a brutal take that game that in order to win this game, you're just going to pile on people. Like I feel like that's the main draw of this game is you are jailing witches, you want to accuse people, and you are shoving them in your jail, and every witch you shove gets you points. You're trying to protect other people that are part of your family and stuff like that. And so, not knowing anybody at this table, I got attack cards. And so I just kept playing them on Chris, because I know Chris and I just think it's funny when he gets mad. So I just start, piling on him to the point where everybody at the table was like, oh my goodness, you're being so mean. But I didn't know the other 2 girls. And I don't know their level of gaming, and so.
But that level of a game, you got to expect that because yes, I was mad. I was fuming, and I think they could probably see it because when you have a game with Take That, and all of someone's Take That is directed right at the same person.
It's like me playing with
crippled.
you every single week.
I know, but I'm okay if I'm the one delivering it.
Yeah.
But I was the one receiving it.
Yeah, no problem.
but and I think that game could have been okay. But the other thing is, you're trying some of the ways you get points are you trying to get certain people into your coven or whatever, and certain people into your jail, and like half the people on those cards were named Mary. It was Mary this and Mary that and Mary this. It's like, come on, man. I know it was historically accurate, and I'm sure there were a lot of Marys in Salem, but you didn't have to put them all on cards. So that was difficult.
And it's one of those games too. I mean, it's definitely take that game to the point where I didn't want to let Chris off the mat because then he could get the weapons and turn them on me. So
which I did. Once I finally got some,
it's like I'm just going to keep kicking Chris as much as I can so that he can't get back up, so that I can win this game. And then when I felt like I was far enough ahead, then I eased off a little bit. I actually had to show Chris a card just to make sure that I wasn't just wailing on him. There was actually a reason why. So me and Chris, we actually started with opposite families. So I think that was part of the problem too, is that you were trying to protect the people I was trying to actually accuse.
Yeah, I think I actually, at one point, I looked at you and I was mad. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? Because it was just so many times like, what are you doing? And that's when you showed me the card. This is why I'm trying to get that person, but it was not fun. It's not fun for me.
Looking back, it's actually fun for me. No,
So what other games, Chris, might you not have enjoyed? We know Power Grid was one of them that was a little disappointing.
Right. I had Ruins on my list.
Okay.
We played a game called Skullduggery. We saw 3 games at that booth, and that was the one game that just didn't hit for me. It seemed a little too random and not fun. It was over quick, and that was because both David and I, a couple minutes into it, were like, okay, we get a chance to end this game.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to end it. It was basically you have 4 cards in front of you, and you pick up a card, and you can swap yours out, but you can only see certain ones, and they could all shift to the left, and they could all shift to the right, and they all had numbers on them. And at the end of the game, you just when the game was triggered, you'd flip them over if they weren't already flipped over, and if the first card's a 9, the next one's an 8, 7, 2, you have 9,872 points. So it wasn't the numbers, it was the order that they were in. I don't know, it just wasn't fun for me.
That game was bad,
but it was over quick but probably because David and I were really
tried
bad.
to end it. Yeah.
And the last one I had on my list was Agent 299. That was a free 9-card game that we got from DLP Games when we played Affliction Salem 1692. I didn't like that either.
Oof.
Oh, you forgot the waiter card game.
Okay, I'm not even going to mention that. You can mention that, but there's no way I'm playing that.
There is a game that they gave us too. We got 2 free games from them. One of them was Agent 299, which is not... I would play that over maybe Affliction, actually. But the other game was this waiter game. It's like a 1-card game where you're supposed to play with the waiter. So you go out to a restaurant.
Oh, gosh.
And you're supposed to ask them, do you want to play this game?
That's
I don't even know if you
Chris's
ask them
worst
if you want to play
nightmare is
the
the
game.
introverted
It was hilarious. I hope Chris has this card so we can put a picture of, because I thought it was hilarious.
Did you take a picture of it?
I did not get this card.
I don't know if I took a
You
picture.
didn't-
It might be in my bag, actually.
This game was funny.
Or it's in my garbage. I don't know which one it is.
You didn't play it with Hubert's Polish Kitchen people?
No, you don't want to play that with anybody. You're telling
Yeah.
you're telling your server, don't tell me your name. We're going to guess it.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
brother.
Give us a hint. Give us a hint.
No.
And then if you guess their name right, you get this many points. And if you guess their sister's name, then you get this many points. But only if they tell you it's their sister. You're not allowed to ask them.
Oh
And
my gosh.
David's theory was, they're spitting in your food. Right? If you're trying to play them, they're spitting in your food.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Do not play that game.
My last kind of original sin, and I will just say this because I'm not going to mention necessarily anything about it, but me and my wife, we've been playing this game, and if you get through all the clues that I'm going to allude to, then good on you, but I'll make it a puzzle. So we played this game, and on this game, there are certain maps that come with this game. And one of the maps, it follows deduction, because we like deduction style games. And so one of the maps we got, it was actually the very first map of this, $120 game I had bought. And on this map, the deduction as far as what is supposed to happen when things align or whatever did not follow it. And so exactly, of course, it's the very first map. It's the first thing we find. I'm like, it should be this on the next square, and it's not that. And we're like really confused because we're like, are we playing this game right or wrong? And so it just so happens that Chris and me, we had signed up to play this game at Origins. And so the designer was going to be there. And so I was like, I told my wife, I was like, I'll bring this map. Just because I just wanted to make sure we
Did
were
you
playing
really?
this game right or not. Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Don't do
I have
this, right?
secondhand embarrassment right
So
now.
I go over there, and there's supposed to be a teacher. The lady's really friendly, and I thought maybe she could tell me if my logic rules were right or not, because I said, hey, this didn't really make sense. And so she goes, well, hey, the publisher, the designer's right over there. Let me go call him.
Oh, my gosh.
And so
embarrassed.
she goes and
Hey,
calls
you're embarrassed. I'm sitting next to him.
and so she goes and calls him over. And so I show him this. I said, hey, I don't know, I didn't see anything on BGG or anything. I haven't seen anybody say that this isn't correct, but I said, me and my wife tried to play this. It's the very first map. And I said, it doesn't make sense to us. So I show him this map. I'm thinking in my head, he's going to apologize, be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I paid $130 or something, $20, $30 for this game, deluxified everything. And he just starts taking pictures. First off, because he's taking pictures and he's grumbling a little bit. And he goes, yeah, this isn't right. Like, this isn't right at all. Yeah, you're right, or whatever the case is. But he didn't apologize at all. He was just really mad that I would even bring it up. To the point where I thought, maybe we'll have a conversation, we'll talk. No, he just hands me the map back and then just leaves and goes to another table at his booth. And I go, well, that's the most awkward conversation I've had. And so I don't know if we'll be getting games from that publisher, but hey, I would say don't you got to kind of treat them like artists sometimes. I guess they don't really want to know, and it's probably not even his fault. It's probably somebody else that made that map and had put it in there and do
ownership.
whatever. But yeah, no apology, no new map. We just got a map that doesn't work. Good times. I don't know what to say, so maybe I'll post it on BGG and just in case other people are trying to play this. But yeah, still like the game actually, but. Not a great
Can you
experience.
advance that since the map doesn't make sense or no?
They're like standalone.
Oh, okay.
So
you just skip it.
yeah, it's just a map that is not going to work. That you paid a lot of money
But it's
for.
really important that map do what it
Yeah.
says it's going to do. It's a deduction game. And so if
Especially 'cause
something's there,
it's
it's not supposed to
Yeah.
be there.
the
That's a
first-
problem.
First map in the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, if it was like the fifth map we ran into, we'd be like, oh, this map's just wrong. But because we didn't really know how to play, we learned the
Trying to
rules
figure
and we
it out,
tried.
yeah.
Then something doesn't make sense that shouldn't make sense. And my wife's like, you even know how to play this game? I'm like, babe, I studied up. I'm pretty sure. But anyways.
Yeah. Any games, Pete, that you checked out from the library that you weren't a fan of, or did you like what you played?
No, I liked everything that I played. Like I said, we didn't play a lot of games. We tried a couple different games that I didn't really have access to. I did pick up one game in the hall because I thought it looked really interesting. It's called, I'm sure I'm going to pronounce it wrong here, but Hasseltold. And
You pronounced it wrong, but yes.
I figured I would.
Chrissy turd.
I think it's Hastelude, but
Hastelude.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Hastelude.
I think it's Hasselhoff.
That's a different game.
But we were walking through, and I know the thing that caught my eye was the artwork. And I was talking to the designer of the game, and that was another thing that Dave, he was really excited that he was able to talk to one of the designers of the game. And I think the pricing was really good that he was offering us. It looked like a good game that I liked. It looks very similar to like a Lancaster, which was a game that's kind of on my radar that I'd like to pick up. So rather than buying Lancaster, this is one I picked up at the hall to try to help some of these publishers. And
so you bought it then?
Yeah, I bought it right there.
Okay.
I just saw a little bit of the playthrough that he was doing with somebody else, and I thought, yeah, this looks pretty good. So nothing really that I was disappointed in. I still think one day is about the limit that I could do. As much as I'd like to spend the night and maybe do another day, I think I see enough with what I'm looking for in the experience of going to the game, going to Origins or Gen Con.
Yeah, I do wish the exhibition hall was open a little. I mean, it's open 8 hours, and I understand for people working there, maybe that's enough. But it's 10 to 6, and if you've got games already scheduled, you may not get to spend the time you want in there. And both times I've been, I'm like, man, we're ready to go in there now, and it's closed.
Well, and that's one of the things is, we walked through the thing and we came out, we were looking for you guys, and that's when Dave and I signed out a game, and we played a game and checked in another one, and that's when we looked up, and it's like it's 7:00. Oh, the hall's closed. And I think I was a little disappointed in that. I would have loved to walk through one more time. There were a couple things that I might have picked up, but like I said, I already spent all my money. So, but that I would agree with you that I think, if it was open, maybe another hour or two, but I totally get it. For those people in the exhibits halls, that's a lot of work. It's a long day.
I wonder if they would have better luck if they did something like a morning session, close it for lunchtime type of thing, and then reopen it. And then you could go later in the day and have it.
It's busy all the time, though. When we got there it was close to 10:30 by the time Dave and I got in and parked and all that. And next thing I knew, we picked up David around 11:30, went to the concession area, and by then it was lunchtime. And it's like, we walked through it once and came back. But going from, Cleveland to Columbus.
Yeah, you were just in and out in a day.
It's
and you
a
had
long day.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be made a little bit better if I did spend the night and, spread it out over 2 days.
Pace yourself a little bit differently. Yeah. It's hard when you go one day to something and you're trying to cram everything in and you feel like you got to see everything and do everything, and it's a lot of pressure. So, yeah. All right. Well, talk about some of the other games that we played. Chris, you said that you had over 40 plays. David, I assume you had probably close to the similar. You had 29 different types of games played. Do you want to walk us through what those games were, hit on them quick, and just kind of tell us what you did?
Let's do a lightning round, and maybe we won't talk in depth about them, but there might be some things we want to say about each. We played Scout, and this was just David and I playing Scout. When we had some time to kill, we would play Scout 2-player, play that 6 times. And that was the first time I had played a 2-player.
Me too. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. And it was different. And maybe we'll talk about that on a future episode when we talk about Scout. But that was one of our time fillers. That was a game I brought. David had brought Jekyll versus Hyde. Again, we played that 4 times, just us. And I think we just kept trading. That's a tough game to win if you're not the right character. And it's an interesting, again, 2-player trick taker.
Yep.
So it's a different experience. And then Lone Wolves. That was a game that David had brought. Again, just us. I can't win that game.
Yeah, if you want to play this game, Danielle, I'll teach you the secret so you can beat Chris every time.
Sweet. I want to play Jekyll and Hyde, too. That sounds sweet.
Yeah, but Lone Wolves, I don't know. I couldn't get it.
Oh.
We talked about Ruins. We played Moon Colony Bloodbath. We had some time to kill.
Nice.
And so we checked Moon Colony Bloodbath out of the library, and we decided we were going to play it as a 2-player co-op, and we were going to try to get all the way to that 13th event.
Yes.
And I made it.
You did?
I made it. David made it to... Did you make it to 11 or 12?
12. I died. I mean, I died in a lot of games.
So aggravating.
It was a good time.
But it was a different experience. So we were looking, and so it wasn't... You can play some buildings that put something bad into the deck. And so we were trying to consciously build the deck that would help us. And so we're looking for buildings that give you extra things, knowing that I'm also trying to keep David alive. And so if I see he benefits from boxes, I'm not going to put something in there that can hurt you or can get rid of your boxes. And it was a different game. I enjoyed that experience. I enjoyed the game, period.
How was that? How was the ending when you got to it? Were you like, or were you like,
Well, I could kind of see it coming, but it was tight. It was... again, you
Yeah.
almost made it,
Yeah.
and I was at risk. But I think I still maybe had one more building
Yeah.
to blow through. But it was close. It was
Jeez.
close.
Chris-
Even just trying, and even with only 2
Yeah.
players, it was close.
Chris had this special card that basically let him play an event that was an extra one, so we didn't have to go a whole nother round.
Right. It was a building.
That was a huge one.
Yeah. It was a building that when I played it would allow me, would said immediately play the next event, which you would think was a bad thing. But if you're just, I got to get that 13th event, there was a time to say, okay, I'm going to play it now and get it out
Accelerate
there.
the game.
Yeah. At the right time.
Right.
Accelerate at the right time. So that was cool. We played a game called Bin Ho Classic, which is basically a finger flicking soccer game.
Yeah.
So you got a board in front of you. It's maybe 15 inches by a couple feet, but there's pegs. So there's a goal at either end. You're standing behind, and there's pegs in front of the goal, and you alternate flicking the ball. Right? It sounds dumb.
It's
Actually,
fun.
wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
It wasn't that
it's
bad.
pretty fun.
And I think we got a rule wrong. I think it's when you score, you're supposed to take one of your pegs out in front of you to
Yeah.
make it a little closer. Since David likes talking about when he beat me, I destroyed him
Yeah.
in Bin Ho Classic.
Anything flicking, I'm not good at.
David mentioned earlier we played a lot of co-op games, and I was surprised because we had a list of games we each wanted to play, and David actually had a lot of co-op games on his list. Tesseract was one of them, David.
Yes, Tesseract. I enjoyed that one. What did you think? I mean, Tesseract is a game where we're working together. There's this Tesseract cube. You're trying to take and isolate different cubes out of there so that we can win the game. If you isolate, I think, 20 of them, there's 5 in each. There are 6 of each of the 4 colors, so 24 cubes you had to isolate to win the game before the cube kind of goes off and explodes or something like that. So we did save the world. That's what I was told, so it was a good time.
We did. We won. And it was one of those where you started as like, there's no way we're going to do this. And then you start to get you earn the powers that allow you to combo some things together. We played that with Mike and Tamala, and I thought we did a pretty good job of working together.
Yes.
What is your power? How can I set you up? How can you set me up? And I enjoyed that game. I still may buy it. I'm not sure. David pulled a fast one on me and said, don't buy it, Chris. I've got that at home. I got a copy for you at home. Then he sends me a text saying, I gave that copy away.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I know.
That was
Terrible.
rude. That was rude. I mentioned we played Power Grid on the big board. We played a game called Deep Regrets. We were taught by Jared, and we played with Roger. That was an interesting game.
That was a pretty funny game. So this game in Deep Regrets, it's a newer game. You're out there, you're fishing in this kind of, I don't know, apocalyptic kind of ocean, and you're pulling out some good fish, but mostly grotesque and interesting fish that would make you go crazy and insane. And so Chris, actually, there's a small deck that, I don't know how many cards in there, probably like 50 to 60 cards in this deck, and it gives you insanity. So if you catch insane fish, you have to go and you have to grab and pull one of those markers and see. It's negative points usually during the game, and then whoever has the most in like let's say you have negative 10 or something in insanity, then you don't count one of your trophy fishes, and you can only have 3 of those fishes that are like multiples that you can mount on your wall. And so basically we were playing this game, but the craziest part is Chris took all 50 or 60 of those cards. I don't know how many cards were in there, but Chris was the most insane person
At one point, I had every single one.
he had every single one. It's
Because
pretty
it's
funny.
there are some benefits to going insane. So if you're going insane and you have those nasty fish, they're worth more points, right? So yeah, you have to give up one of your trophy fish, but it was at the point where I was like, I'm just going all in.
Yeah.
I clearly have a lot of these. I think I got something to set every time I take one. I take another one, and it's like, okay, that's it. I'm just going to take them all, right? I know I'm going to win. I'll just do that. And I came in second place. You beat me by a couple points.
I took all the good fish. And
I
Chris
took all the nasty ones.
fish, and the other 2 guys were like, "What are these people doing?"
and we blew them away.
oh my gosh.
So that was an interesting game. But it was I was curious. Hey, if I go all in on the bad, and it was the one trophy fish I had to get rid of that
Yep.
made the difference between who won that game. So you can
love
go either way.
Yep.
You can go either way. We played Endeavor Deep Sea.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was really good. The board was a little hard to tell at times. Okay, where am I putting my disc? It was a little hard to get your mind around it. But in this case, you're doing some research activities, and you can take your sub lower and do a number of different type of activities. We couldn't do it justice just doing a real quick discussion here. But it was one of the highlights for me of the con. That's a good game. I understand why it's getting a lot of press. I understand why it's winning awards. It ramped up appropriately. It's 6 rounds. The first round you can't do much,
Yep.
and by the 6th round you realize, okay, yeah, I got my engine going. I can do all the things I want to do.
Yeah, I think you guys will really like this game. I was impressed by it. It's one of those games where you hear a lot of hype, but I think it does live up to the hype, and hopefully it'll be on a future battle. So for sure, it's that good.
I mentioned earlier we played Skullduggery. We didn't like it. We played at a table with Greg and Chris. We also played the Crooked Crown, which I thought was better.
Yeah. Did you end up picking up Crooked Crown, Pete?
You know, that was one of the things when I was walking through the convention hall. That was one that caught my eye. I did not pick it up. And again, if I were to walk through on the way out, I might have done it. But again, spent all my money, so I didn't feel like calling you guys and say, pick that up for me. But it did look interesting.
Well, it was interesting to where basically who has the crown at the end. This is a single card. Who has that card? You can do things to look at somebody's hand, but then there's also someone can steal a card, and so you never really know for sure where it's at. And I did think it led to some interesting dynamics, but also at the end of the game, David, I think it was okay. Last turn, you knew you didn't have it, and you didn't have a card that allow you to take.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, well, no, I have no chance to win this game whatsoever. So that was a little bummer for you.
Yes, that was a bummer for me on that end.
We played Glory to Rome.
Yes, we
Glory
did.
to Rome.
Glory to Rome. Douglas taught it. He had his magic wand out and everything. He had a good time teaching us.
Yeah.
We played with Deb, Gary, and Joff, and it was an interesting game. We played with a variant that I think to help people learn where Douglas wanted people to be able to grok the game a little better. So when we were putting cards in our vault, he wanted us to put them face up. I wasn't a big fan of that because then at the end we can look at what I want to put in my vault.
Yeah.
And you knew how to get that bonus at the end. What do I need to put in my vault? Other than that, though, it was Glory to Rome. I had a good time playing it.
Yeah, Douglas was a great teacher.
He was.
So I think I might need to get a wand so that I can point things out on the board because that actually helped quite a bit.
I'm
did.
sorry I missed that one.
Yeah, he had a good time. No, you're not, Pete.
We can play it tonight.
Yeah. We played Giant Zero twice. We played a game called Hold'em Havoc with Taryn, who designed the game. It's not out there now. He's trying to find a publisher.
Yes.
It was a variant of Texas Hold'em,
Yeah.
where you put in different rules in there, and that's impacting your bets.
I lost big time.
You did.
Yeah, I tried to go all in like the first two hands.
Didn't
I thought we
work.
were demoing it, but Chris wanted to stay for like
Yeah,
a half
I was
hour.
like, I'm
and
still
play.
in. Sit there and suck it. We played Shadows over Camelot. We did have a hidden trader in that game. I had not played it before. I know, Pete, you said you had wanted to play that.
I've been wanting to play that game for a long time. That was one of my Grail games that I wanted to get. I actually picked
Grail
up
games. Nice.
Yeah, it
yeah.
was. I picked it up for like $20. And this was when they were going like for hundreds of dollars to try to get them even used on the market. So this is a game that I want to play. I've been waiting to play. I know you need a number of players. I think it's probably better at a 4 or 5 count, just because then you get that dynamic because you may have that one person that's hidden.
Yeah, we played with
Yeah.
6. We had 6
Yeah.
around our table.
And you said you played that
And
with
we will
with
get
a
the same.
trader.
We will
Yes,
get the
hidden
same
trader.
Table,
Yeah.
Pete.
It's
coming for a
I have
battle.
flashbacks of
Yeah.
that. What do we
The
play?
vampire one?
Yeah, Dracula.
Yeah. I thought Shadows was actually pretty good.
I did too. Our strategy was not good.
Yeah.
We couldn't convince people that, hey, someone else needs to go in that area with another person. Go in there and nail that one. Then come over here and nail that one. Everybody was trying to do their own thing and was making no progress.
Yeah.
And the traders just sitting there laughing.
Suck
Because
it up. Yeah.
We're getting killed. Yeah.
But we couldn't convince people that no, we have to take a different
I
approach
like
here.
that theme though. If we battle something sometime, trader games.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy who played King Arthur. He just literally sat there trying to battle the Grail the whole game, just playing cards.
Yeah,
Only
that was his whole
wondering
turn. Someone would pass him a grail and I was like, okay, my turn. Playing a grail.
for like 2 hours.
And then a card would come out that wiped that grail out. So I was like, next turn, playing the same damn grail.
I know.
So that was not
time.
good. I mentioned Nemesis before. One of the highlights, probably the best game I played, I thought. Again, another shout out to Heather. We played Core of Discovery, a game set in the world of Manifest Destiny, which wins the award for the longest name. I thought it was a good game. They didn't give us enough time.
Yeah,
they gave us 50 minutes. The game says it takes 60 to 75 minutes. So why schedule it to where you can't have enough time? That's a pet peeve of mine I didn't mention.
Yeah, I mean, we were trying to get to our table, and there's still people at our table at past the time, and that's just annoying. And then they cut our time short to make sure that we didn't do it the next group, and I was like, but our group won, so it doesn't matter.
A win's a win.
We mentioned Terraforming Mars. We mentioned Affliction Satum 1692, Agent 299, and then we played Oddland twice. Once it was just us, me and David, and then we also played it with Chris and Seth. Chris won that game. I thought it was a pretty good game. So that ends up when we talk about what we brought home. That was one I brought home.
Yeah, I like Oddland a lot better than Ruins.
Yeah, definitely. We played Forest Shuffle, which obviously is a popular game. We played a 5-player game. I liked the game. I didn't like it at 5.
I actually like the game. It's kind of like Earth-esque, where you're playing a bunch of cards, building your own tableau, trying to fill trees, doing stuff like that. I actually want to play this game again. It's been it's sticking in my head a little bit. So
Yeah, but you're talking cards, and so each tree you can put something on either side, something at the top, something at the bottom. But at 5 players, the text is so small. I had no idea what anyone else was doing.
The text is very small on these cards.
Right. I had no idea what everyone else was doing, and I had no idea how many cards of a certain type. So you could see how many of this specific card are in the deck, but how many bats are in the deck, you have no idea.
We have no idea.
And so it was tough to make decisions. We played a game called 3 Chapters at the Amigo Games booth.
Oh, yes.
So that was an interesting game. David misunderstood the rules, and so he got destroyed. I won that game. But it was also interesting because it was themed around literature, and so maybe this is Peter Pan types and Jack and the Beanstalk, and then maybe it's other pieces. So it helped you understand what might go with what other cards as you're trying to build the game.
Don't make the mistake I did. The first chapter of that game is drafting cards, not actually playing them. So
yeah, you thought we had an extra chapter. We're like, game's over.
Yeah, I was like, what? Game's over.
We played River Valley Glassworks. We played it twice, so they gave us plenty of time to play this game. We played it twice.
Oh yeah, and our teacher was the first-time teacher. Do you have her name? I forgot her name, but she was good.
Well, I know we played with Joe and Vivian. Vivian actually won the second game. I will look up. To see who taught it to us if I have it. But that was a game that I had played online before we got there. I did not expect to like, and I actually enjoyed the game. We were actually playing with other people.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I am sorry to say. I played this game with Daniela before, and I did not like this game at all.
I was like, this is a child's game.
I played it with Chris, there. Maybe it was the teacher, but I actually enjoyed it, both games we played. So
Interesting.
I can't believe I'm saying that either.
Yeah, Allison taught that game to us, River Valley Glassworks. I mean, it's not going to be in my top 10 or anything like that.
You're getting it for your birthday.
I got to be careful what I say. But I actually, that is the game I'm going to play with my brother DJ next week. It's on Board Game Arena. It's a decent implementation there, so we're gonna play that next week.
I could probably jump on
the production value on that's pretty good, though, isn't it?
I mean,
I feel like if you hit it, the stuff flies everywhere too.
Yeah, right.
And then moving the pieces is like
it's
aggravating.
It's glass pieces, and so you want to say it's good. It's okay.
I don't know.
That's the one thing that caught my eye. Again, looking at deluxe components, I always look for cool components.
I don't know that I would call that a deluxe. You can get a deluxeified version if you want to pay twice as much for it, and I didn't think that's not what I think of when I think of a deluxe game.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We played Biblios. That was another game we played with Seth and Chris. Chris won that one as well, so he was talking himself down. He just comes in and pounds us.
Yeah.
Right. I had never played Biblios before, but I've known about it for years. It's not going to be my favorite game. It was an interesting mechanic, but I feel like the game we played was a bit of a dud because you're bidding on cards as they come out. You're taking cards in your hand, you're giving others to other people, and there's a stack of cards, and you're bidding on them as they come out, trying to end up with the most of each type of card. And then the last card was a money card that you can't bid on. And so I'm sitting here with $13 thinking I'm going to come in on the last card and like, okay, that's $13 I could have spent elsewhere. So
Did we play this?
Yeah, I have this game and I think I played it. We did it at church night. I think we played it one time. It's kind of interesting because you're also manipulating the value of what those cards are. So you may not be going for something and try to bump something else down, and then it can get there's a little interaction with it.
Yeah, and the deciding point in the game was Chris ended up winning the green, whatever the green ones are called. He had 2 green cards, 2 points. But nobody else took a green card. And it was just like, you got to be kidding me. The deciding factor in the game is he happened to have two green cards.
Yeah.
And I think he took because no one else wanted them. And it was just, they came to him like, yeah, I'll take it.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. And then the last game was Hot Streak. We played that with Reed, Kelly, and Andrea. Reed was good enough to bring his copy and play with us, and it was excellent.
Yeah, if you get a chance to play Hot Streak, I actually just bought a copy, so hopefully it'll be here soon. It's pretty fun. It's good. So I'll talk about it more another time. But Hot Streak is basically a game where mascots, if you think about like a mascot race at a baseball game, this is what it is. And it's silly, goofy fun. I actually think it could be better than Camel Up potentially.
Yeah, I heard some comparisons about it being Camel Up type game where it's just kind of laughing, having a good time. So
for right now, I would play that over Camel Up any day. If you give me the choice of those two, I'm playing.
Yeah,
that
but
game.
you haven't played with the new pop-up palm tree yet, have you?
I have not played Camel Up with the pop-up palm tree.
It does a lot for the game.
I still gotta get you coins.
Yeah,
we had a blast before we even started playing it. Just looking at the things there, but when you, I don't know, you don't know what's going to happen, and when the hot dog starts tripping over the fish, and then you finally get the card you wanted, but the guy's facing backwards, and so the one you bet on is running backwards, just like in you work for. you work for a company, Daniela, that
Yes.
that
Does that mascot
that
racing?
does the mascot
Yes.
racing. It's
No,
like
honestly,
that's what it is.
It's brilliant.
That's what it is.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's brilliant because I think everybody can relate to that. They see it, they know what it is, and they go, "Oh yes, now I can be a part of this." I actually think the concept of the game is really quite interesting.
Yeah, one of the things I heard was it's kind of overproduced, so I'm all in.
All right. Well, that was our slowest lightning round ever. Don't worry about that. All right. Let's go to our purchases. I want each of you guys to tell us what you bought. And if you have a little something about that, great. But if not, just kind of tell us some of the things you added to your collections.
Okay, I'll just go first because I only have 3. I'm not going to mention any of the purchases I bought at the consignment shop. So I brought Trinket Trove. I bought No Loose Ends, which were both by Gameheads, 2 of their new games. I don't even think they're quite out yet, so that's probably the reason why I bought them. And then I bought Has Salute as well. I know Pete has it. I was able to talk to George a little bit about it. He kind of pulled me and Kristen when we were walking by. He's like, "You guys like Lords of Waterdeep?" I was like,
Yeah.
So we took a detour, and it was great talking with George. You know, if you want to check out this game, Haste Elude, you can go on their website. It's GEN 1400 gaming.site is the only way to actually buy their game right now. The game's $50. They're from New York. It's shipping out of New York. And George specifically told me that if you buy the game and you don't like it, you can email them and they will refund your money. So
That's great.
Take that guarantee to the bank. But I think and wish George the best. I think this game is cool. I think he only has 500 copies. So me and Pete have 2 of them. So good luck to y'all. 498 left.
And he's a guy after your own heart. He was talking about the 1,000 games he has in his library as well.
Yeah.
So
We had a good time talking with George. And in this game, Hey Salute, you are basically knights. So what that term actually means is it's a medieval term for martial games or tournaments like jousting. And so the point of the game is you're leveling up knights by doing worker placement stuff. You're fulfilling contracts. You're getting up more knights, more workers. Just everything we kind of like about worker placement. So it's good times.
we played 2 rounds. I won.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
That's
We
only
didn't play
because
the full game. I had a better engine going.
oh,
but
absolutely,
Chris did win. Yeah.
I didn't do anything that would
That's
have won.
Chris's MO.
Yeah, well,
I got a great thing going. Chris,
Yeah,
15
I thought we were going
points
to do
later.
that same thing with we played the poker game. We're supposed to be there for 2 hands, and then the next thing I know, Chris, we're there for a half hour. I thought this game we just played the whole game, and then no, we were only there for 2 hands.
No, my
vote
strategy.
you off
My
the
strategy
island.
was how
Terrible.
can I be ahead after 2 rounds? Yeah, I would have got destroyed if we played another round.
It was a good time.
Well, I
Pete, what'd
also,
you get?
as you said, as David said, I picked up that game too. I'm really looking forward to playing that. I will mention the games that I did pick up at the concession area because I think that was one thing I wasn't expecting to do. The one that I'm really excited about, and I played it last night with one of my other game groups, is, and I am looking at it right over there, Lorenza Il Magnifico. How's that for pronunciation there?
Good.
All right, Lorenzo.
Very dry Euro, but I love all the mechanics, and it was a good time. The other games that I picked up, I was able to grab a first edition Kemet. So
nice.
I have that.
Don't bring it.
No, it was one of the games. I've played it before. I kind of enjoy it. I was thinking about going in, and when they had a Kickstarter to get the full in edition, and I just couldn't pull the trigger on it because of the price tag on that. So I enjoyed the game enough. This is one at the price that I got. I think it was like $15 or $20. I thought it was a good pickup. The other game I got was a Castle for All Seasons, which this was just an impulse buy. It looked really good. The price was really right. It was like I think it was $5. So, and it was sealed package. So I watched a playthrough of it, which looked pretty decent too. So it'll be an interesting one. And then I think those were the 3 that I picked up used. So
Nice.
Yep.
Did Dave buy anything or no?
No, he was just the mule. He carried everything around.
Good job. Chris, tell us about your haul.
Yeah, so I bought more than I expected to. It came home with a lot more than I thought I would. First, what I bought from vendors, I bought Parks and Potions from Moon Saga Workshop. The designer Chris Eastridge was there. We had actually seen this before it kickstarted last year, and so we saw him at his booth again. And I bought everything. So I bought the game, the deluxe upgrade kit. There was 2 expansions, Potion Perils and Bugs and Bottles. I bought those as well. Little fun fact here: at one point in time, I was the world record holder in Parks and Potions. I had scored more than anyone ever in the history of the game had scored. That's
What
as
are
of
you
last
talking
year.
about?
Yeah.
Last year I played it and I scored
true.
55 points, and Chris was like, is that even possible to score 55 points? And he said he went back and his partner's like, I don't even think that's possible. And then she eventually beat that score.
Took her 20 times.
For a while, I was the high scorer ever.
Dang.
So I had to buy it. And then I bought Oddland. We talked about that earlier. That was an all-play game. I did get the expansion Deep Waters for All Plays game Lure. That's a game that my family will play with me. We're heading on vacation here shortly, so I was like, okay, I'll get that. I bought a wooden euchre scorekeeping box. So there's not just board games there. There are other people. Pete, you talked about the art. There are a lot of game adjacent type things, and we go to a lot of college football games, typically Notre Dame games, and the whole family will get there, and we play euchre. But we're playing euchre in October with the wind blowing, et cetera. And so rather than having cards out for scoring that no one's holding, this is basically just a wooden box with pegs in it to keep score that won't blow away.
Nice.
And then you can put the cards in afterwards. And then my bottomless mug, I actually came home with it this time.
Yay.
And I learned that I can bring it back next year. And rather than spending the big money again, if I have that, then I'm just
that's
paying
good.
like a $10 all day thing. And so it's, assuming I don't leave it again, I can continue to do that.
Can you tell us the issues with that mug
You need a
though, that you
backpack,
discovered by having it for 2 days?
I mean, the primary issue is my wrist hurt afterwards.
Well,
it's heavy.
You should look like Popeye when you're done. Just got a huge
Yeah,
forearm.
right. And you can't. I mean, if it's full, you can't be. You got to be holding it like this the entire time, and then you're constantly paranoid about losing it.
I need to see a picture of this mug.
this
We're
is
gonna
Yeah,
great.
I uploaded a
sent this
picture,
one.
so
Okay.
I
so
thought you
you'll
said
see
the
it
lid
there.
didn't fit right either.
Well, yeah, the lid didn't fit, so I'd fill it up. I put it on a pop up, and I had to get it
brother.
just right, and then it would stay. So I was a little disappointed in that because the lid ain't free.
Yeah.
By the way,
Oh, it's not free?
no, it's like $12.
What, you had to pay for that?
12 bucks for the lid and straw. Well, but again,
This makes it even
okay,
better.
but let's be clear. It's a silicone and wooden lid, so it's not just a plastic lid. Silicone, wooden lid, metal straw. It's like $12 for.
Oh,
for those
I hate
things.
metal
So-
straws in my teeth.
And then every time Chris would walk around and had ice in it, it was condensating everywhere.
It was so cold. Because again, it's a metal cup, and it's like, oh my god, I got to put this down. My hand's going to fall off. It's just going to get
hilarious.
frostbite. All right, I bought a couple things from our listener Chris. So I bought Smartphone Inc. With the expansion, the Update 1.1 expansion. And I bought a game I played for the first time last year at Origins. Pete taught me Woodcraft.
Yes.
And so I bought that from Chris as well. So I'm looking forward to playing that. And there are some things I didn't pay for. It doesn't mean I stole them. Okay. Amigo was giving away free copies of No Thanks if you
wonderful.
followed him on Instagram. So I showed him I followed him on Instagram and got a copy of that. Agent 299, I mentioned that earlier. That was a free giveaway.
Favorite
when
game,
we played
David?
Affliction
Waiter
Serum
game.
16. Yeah, I'm not. Well, again, I don't know if I even brought that home. I mentioned Foolish Fool from Gamehead, so that was a review copy. I'm going to play that with my family. And then New Frontiers, along with the expansion, the Starry Rift, the game library was having a lottery where Rio Grande had given like 1,000 games to them to give away. And every
wow.
time you checked a game out, randomly you could be chosen to win a game. And if you won a game, then you rolled a 10-sided die, and based on what you rolled, that's what you get. And I was looking at that, and I didn't know many of them, but the one game I said, okay, I think that would be good, is New Frontier. And I happened to
got
roll an
it?
8, and I got New Frontier on the
Wow.
expansion. And that's like $90 worth of game. Right? I looked at that. That was a great giveaway.
I'm not sure how random it really was because I went on and I looked at a bunch of
'Cause you
people's
didn't get one.
pictures, game hall pictures, and they had like every copy of those free games, and there's like 8 of them. And I'm like, you just got that lucky.
Well, so when you rolled, no one's really looking at your roll.
I
So
know.
I did get an 8, but if I got a 1, I could have got an 8.
I think
And
there's
they-
people gaming that system. But I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
it could be. Could be. But
Maybe
I
they
came
should
home
help
with
me.
New Frontiers and the expansion. And let me tell you something. There's a lot to punch out with those.
They must
So
not like Chinese people because I got squat.
That's what it was. They're really looking. That's a good looking dude.
I didn't get anything either. I know Dave was thinking that we were going to get something. He's like, "Let me know and I'll sign a game out and I'll get you what you want." And I said, "That's not the way it works."
That's exactly how Chris won this
Listen,
game. We had 15
I'm
minutes.
gonna go next year and just keep signing out
we
games
checked-
and
yeah.
win ton
We
of
checked out games. We played Oddlands. We didn't even play Chris's game, and
No, we
then
didn't,
Chris's game
but I
wins.
won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We checked it out for the very purpose that maybe we'd win.
But
Chris somehow won.
one of the things we played was Oddland, and I bought it later.
Yeah, that's true.
Nice.
So who's the real winner? I got more money in my wallet. No, I'm just messing. Good.
All right, guys, that was a great overview of Origins 2025. Any final thoughts as we hit around the table of maybe, again, something that you liked, something you didn't like, something you're looking forward to next year? Are you going to go back next year? Are you going to skip it next year? What are you thinking, David? Pete, go
Well,
ahead.
I already looked. Origins next year is around the same time. It is right at Juneteenth. I think, week. So I know I saw a lot of posts online that people said it's great when some of us get that extra day off,
Right.
and it really gives you some extra flexibility. So maybe next year, maybe I'll do the Thursday, Friday thing. So that's something that I may be looking forward to. We'll see. Or I'll just do one day again.
We'll find a hotel with a hot tub so you can soak overnight.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what our hotel has. They have a swimming pool, but we never see it.
David.
Yeah, my final thoughts. I thought it was a great con this year. I think it's better every year just because the people that we get to know just by playing games, every year it seems like I know more people down there. If you're looking for a con that you want to actually play games at, I think this is the con to go to. As far as that goes, I saw a lot of people posting stuff online that had gone to Gen Con in previous years, and they were talking about how they rather just come to Origins now because Gen Con is really bloated. Unless you're there to shop the newest stuff, just the traffic and everything that it brings. They were saying that, and they said the people were friendlier at Archon. So I like what I'm hearing. But, just a shout out to Reed. Every year we see him. He's always got something hot to show us. Last year it was Arcs. This year is Hot Streak. Just, what crazy game will Reed bring next year? But Reed, if you're out there, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Chris?
I have a blast at Origins. I was telling David that before we went, I was thinking, Origins is coming up. We're going down Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. And then we're coming back Saturday. And even before I got there, I was sad because Origins was almost over. It hadn't even started yet. And I'm sitting there getting sad because it's almost over. So that's how my brain works. But no, I had a blast. Honestly, the first day we were there, I think it was a little bit of a slow start, or I had built it back up. And I was like, man, I'm not feeling like I did last year after that
I'm
first
losing.
day. Yeah. Maybe it was
What's
just.
that feel like?
Yeah, that was it too. I did not win on Wednesday. Maybe I don't think that's what it was.
actually
But
true, though.
it could. I had a bad Wednesday.
Yeah. I beat him down on Wednesday.
But by the end of the Wednesday, I was like, no, I'm having a good time. And the rest of the day is like, oh my gosh, I was able to completely disconnect from work, just all in on the plays. And again, we get there at 8 a.m. We play. We get back to the hotel at midnight, 12:30, and we're waking up at 6:30. And I'm waking up at 6:30. David's up at 5:30 making noise, but I'm waking up at 6:30
Why are you up so early, you weirdos?
You gotta eat breakfast.
because you got to get back. Got to get back there and play the game. I had a blast. I'm going to get next year. I can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys, for that great just chat today. Well, that's going to do it for this special episode of The Fifth Meeple. If you were at Origins or if you just want to get in touch with us, email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com or give us a shout out on social media. Thank you for spending this time with us. And until next time, may all of your experiences be original ones. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Adios, amigos.
Stop. I got
Oh. You got a what?
Okay, wait, no.
I got to catch this.
No, I
Hold on.
have some ideas. Thank you for spending time. All right, well, why don't you guys take us to
I wasn't done.
Yeah, Chris
Chris
has a lot
has
to say
more
about that.
highlights.
I got Dave's too. So,
Dave's highlights?
well, one thing he said.
Okay.
He liked.
Back up, scratch all that.